Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us on this Thursday. It is almost looking like summer outside there right now, but yet it is still spring. Glad to have you with us. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Stiers. Jesse Stiers is here as well. Do you have all your draft prep ready for tonight's NFL draft?
I think so. I hope so.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a really entertaining first round, even more so the top.
That's not a good sign. Jesse is cutting out already as we try to start this show. We've had some behind-the-scenes bugs going on as we get ready for the broadcast here tonight, but we will see if he can get things fixed. I don't know exactly what this is going to look like. Give me just 1 second here. All right. I'll remind you that we've got the Blue Gold game coming up this Saturday at Notre Dame Stadium. It's a 2:00 kickoff. And the 95th annual Blue Gold game will be heard, well, I was about to say right here, but it is not right here on Sports Radio WSBT. It is on Sunny 101.5 FM. And you can also download the Sunny app if you're out driving around and you are out of earshot of our signal on Sunny 101.5 FM. And you can listen in the Sunny 101.5 FM app. And you will also be able to hear the broadcast live on the Sirius XM Notre Dame channel. Jesse is back. Jesse is back. Yes, when you talk, I can hear you. At least for now, anyway.
Everything just froze up. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, you got to love internet. You got to love technology when it works. But so good day for you so far?
Yeah, really nice day so far. The weather's great. The NBA playoffs are tonight. The NFL draft is tonight. There's a lot.
You're not allowed to pregnant pause on this show because it'll look like your internet is frozen up again. So, all right. I tell you what, we've got some different things we're going to do on the show. I've got an interview with Notre Dame great Steve Beuerlein coming up in a little bit. I did want to mention this that came out today. According to Jim Peters, who writes for the LaPorte County Herald-Dispatch, Mishawaka High School has informed New Prairie High School that its wrestling team will not be invited back to the Al Smith Invitational Wrestling Tournament. This stems, of course, from the incident back in January when New Prairie assistant wrestling coach Chris Flieger filed a false battery claim against Notre Dame football coach Marcus Freeman, who, of course, his son was wrestling at the Al Smith Invitational for Penn High School. And I find this very interesting because Mishawaka, of course, is the arch rival of Penn. So Mishawaka didn't have to necessarily step up and do anything here when it came to, Chris Flieger and the New Prairie wrestling program. So Penn High School's biggest rival has disinvited New Prairie from next year's Al Smith Invitational after that incident and the false police report that came after it in January. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's super shameful for New Prairie High School. This didn't need to come to a situation where New Prairie is no longer invited because they're one of the best or one of the better wrestling programs in the area. So really, it's just a disservice to the Invitational as a whole because one person was selfish enough to ruin it, the fun for everyone else. So I just think it's a huge egg on your face moment. You know, you made up all these claims. You were trying to, prey on Marcus Freeman's name and status, and now it's completely backfired to the point where New Prairie is no longer invited to the Al Smith Invitational.
Absolutely. So good on Mishawaka, and apparently Chris Flieger is still there. Bill asked how that guy could still be involved with the program. I don't know, but I don't know what kind of example you're setting there. They've got a really good wrestling program, but they won't be at the Al Smith next year. All right, NFL draft tonight. Of course, we expect Jeremiah Love to go relatively early in the draft. Will Jadarian Price go tonight? We will all find out together what the rest of the draft looks like as well. What we're going to do in this first hour, though, in this first segment of the show, is project a little bit. I've got a list of the last Notre Dame players to be selected in the first round of the NFL draft at each position with the year they were drafted in. So with the draft coming up tonight, what we're going to do, Jesse and I, we're going to predict which current Notre Dame players will be the next to be first-round picks at those positions. We'll also predict if the current Notre Dame player will go higher or lower than the player who was last drafted at that position. So, for example, Jerome Bettis in 1993 was the last Notre Dame running back to be selected in the first round. He was actually taken at number 10 in that year's draft. Pretty much a given that Jeremiah Love is going to be there. Technically, the draft hasn't taken place, so our easy prediction, Jeremiah Love will be the next Notre Dame running back to be selected in the first round of the NFL draft.
Yeah, that's the easiest one. Get that one off the board. If I didn't have to go with Jeremiah Love, I don't think I would go with Aeneas Williams either. I think I would go with Nolan James as my next guy to potentially be drafted in the first round. But we all know Jeremiah Love is going tonight, and I think he's going 4th overall.
Yeah, we're actually going to make our picks for the first 5 picks of the NFL draft in rapid fire in the second hour tonight. And there's already disagreement in the chat in terms of where Love is going. I mean, the question for tonight in terms of Notre Dame and running backs is, will they hear 2 names called in the first round? Will it be Love and Price both showing up in the first round tonight? Scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence right now?
I'm actually going to put this at an 8 out of 10. I think that there's I think Jadarian Price might sneak in on like the last, few picks of the first round. If there's a team I'm really, really looking at, it's the Seattle Seahawks.
I think so too. I mean, that's what Jadarian Price has kind of popped up late, in terms of the Seahawks at the end of the first round. John says his confidence is a 1. La Cuca in the chat says it's a 4. And that's what I think where I am at. Once you get that late, so much of it is dependent upon who is gone, who is there. Obviously, the Seahawks need a running back after losing Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs via free agency after he was the Super Bowl MVP. So they need a running back. Charbonnet was injured late last season. Who knows what his status will be? So they definitely need a running back. So, I mean, Jadarian Price would obviously fill a void for them. So my confidence, though, is a 4 because you just don't know by the time pick 32 comes around. Thanks for the super chat to Richard in the YouTube side. He says, Tennessee Titans need to draft Jeremiah Love to start the huge game in the 2026 NFL draft. I did see earlier today, NFL insider Jay Glazer told Wake Up Barstool this morning that he has been told by a source that something juicy is going to happen in the first round of the draft tonight. He says he knows it's something, but he can't say. He says
I would rather him not even say that. Just wait till the draft gets here at this point. If you of course, something juicy is going to for sure happen. There's going to be trades. There's already been talks about a lot of trades. There's already been a lot of movement. A lot of teams own multiple first round picks. It's I don't know. It's kind of like a no duh moment for me. Like, yeah, something juicy is going to happen. Of course, you're not going to spill the beans before the draft. So why not just wait till the draft comes out and be like, oh, pre-draft, I heard this, and now I can confirm. Or, oh, pre-draft, I heard this, and it didn't end up happening. Like, doing this now is really annoying to me, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all these insiders got to act like they've got the inside information. They are called insiders for a reason. So, okay, so we're very confident Jeremiah Love's going to be the next Notre Dame running back selected in the first round. How about quarterback? Brady Quinn was the last Notre Dame quarterback to go in the first round back in 2007 when he was the 22nd pick overall. Slide your chips pretty confidently in CJ Carr.
Yeah, I'll go CJ Carr, and I'll even go so far to say I think he's going to be the number 1 overall pick in whatever draft class he comes out in.
I don't know if he's going to go number 1. I'm very confident he's going to be a top 5 pick, though. Like I don't, again, wait, see how things play over the course of the season. We're all confident in him. There's a lot of love right now going towards Arch Manning, but it's the second year in a row that's happened. CJ Carr outplayed Arch Manning last year. I'll at least say top 5 right now, after Brady Quinn was the last quarterback to go in the first round at number 22 already 19 years ago, Brady Quinn. How's that possible? Will Fuller, last Notre Dame wide receiver to be selected in the first round. That's been 10 years ago, 2016. He went number 21 overall. Who's the receiver you think, the current Notre Dame receiver who has the best chance to be the next Fighting Irish wide receiver selected in the first round of the NFL draft?
I still think that there is a sneaky chance that Malachi Fields goes in the first round tonight. Yeah, I wouldn't say that those chances are very big, but I do like the upside that he potentially has. But I would definitely go. I'm going to go with Mylan Graham, I think, is who I'm going to go with. I think there's a ton of talent there. I think he's going to have a really good season this season for Notre Dame. He's still a redshirt sophomore. I think he'd stick around for probably another 2 years after this season and could potentially work his way up. I just see the most upside out of him on this roster, outside of maybe some of the younger guys, but it's so hard between like Elijah Burgess, Devin Fitzgerald. Like, those are guys who could potentially do it. It's just I haven't seen enough yet. And so those are the 3 that I think I would like to, because like Greathouse and Faison, they're good wide receivers, but they don't have NFL frames at the end of the day, potentially. Like, I'm looking at someone who's got the frame and the ceiling to potentially be a first round draft pick. So I'm going to go with Mylan Graham.
All right.
Fitzgerald would be a close second.
Mylan Graham is one of the ones I considered, and Fitzgerald is the guy I slid into the number 1 spot. Obviously, don't think, he's just a freshman right now, so he's got 3 seasons to go before he gets there. And just like, whether or not what he's doing this spring camp turns into anything this season doesn't matter quite as much. But I think that as Fitzgerald develops, we obviously know where he came from, and everyone else in NFL circles knows where he came from. And I think that he's going to be, like, by the time his Notre Dame career is over, he's going to be an All-American type guy, and a guy who's pushing to hear his name called in the first round. Fuller went number 21. I'll say Fitzgerald or even Mylan Graham, one of the, like, probably in that range. Interesting, a lot of there are multiple guys from Notre Dame on this list who all went at number 21. Fuller went at number 21. Tyler Eifert coming up next went at 21. Jeff Fain went at number 21. We're going to have to pick up the pace here a little bit. We don't have to speed rush this through. We've got to pick it up just a little bit. Last tight end for Notre Dame to go in the first round was 2013, Tyler Eifert. We all thought Michael Mayer would a couple of years ago. Who's the current Notre Dame tight end who could be the next to hear his name called in the first round? Do you think there is one?
I don't think that there is one, to be honest with you. I think Flanagan has a good chance, or that doesn't really help anything because there's 2 Flanagans. I think I can't remember if it's James Flanagan. I think he has a better chance, but I'm not really sold on what's in the tight end room right now.
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to go with Ian Premer, the incoming freshman. He's not an early enrollee like these other guys, but he's getting here this summer. He's the 5-star guy from Kansas, 6'6", 220. Got a basketball scholarship to play for Kansas State as well, but ultimately left Kansas, coming to Notre Dame to play football. So a lot of athleticism there. I mean, we haven't even seen him, but I think that, like, again, this is of the current guys who's got the best chance. So I'll put Ian Premer at the top of my list for the tight ends to be the next to go in the first round. Okay, the offensive lineman, Joe Alt, 2024 to the Chargers. He went number 5 overall. Who's the next tackle for Notre Dame to hear his name called in the first round?
Yeah, I think this is where the part of the list where things are going to get a lot easier. I'm going to go with Will Black on this one.
I'm going that direction as well. Sloppy Joe says Gerby Lambert. I think that Will Black right now might even, like as a incoming freshman who hasn't played a snap, might be a bit ahead of Gerby Lambert. And I think that with all of his talent and upside that he has, still, I think it's going to be Will Black. I don't think he'll go earlier than a number 5 pick that Joe Alt. I'll say he's got at least a chance to be a top 15 type guy, though. So, all right. Bitten by the party animal says Gerby Lambert as well. So a lot of guys in on, or at least a few guys in on Gerby. How about guard Quentin Nelson, 2018? Of course, he and Mike McGlinchey each went in the first round, both in the top 10. Quentin in 2018 went to the Colts at number 6. Who's the next guard for Notre Dame?
Yeah, this is also really easy. This is the top player on the list. He just moved inside to guard. Anthony Knapp is going to be a first-round draft pick.
Ooh, Jesse is guaranteeing that. Will he go in the top 6?
No.
It's not a bad pick. I'm being optimistic with this next one because, with this pick at guard, because we don't even know, like if this guy is going to play. But I'm going to say if Charles Jagasaw can get out on the field in the next year, I think that he's going to plug in at one of those guard spots, maybe even next year. Maybe it's Anthony Knapp is gone and you've got the returning tackles, both Lambert and Will Black next year. Jagasaw plugs in at left guard potentially. I think if he finally gets a chance to get out there and be healthy, he's got a really good chance to be a first-round guy with all the talent that he has. Still a big if, but that's the pick that I'm going with. I think Knapp is going to be good. I'm not as high as the first round on him, though. La Cuca says, I just like saying Jagasaw. I mean, it is his pronunciation. It has been 23 years since a Notre Dame center went in the first round. And centers are obviously fairly rare as far as first-round guys. But interesting that since Fain in 2003, there have been 11 total centers drafted in the first round. So it's about every other year a center goes in the first round of the NFL draft. So, are you willing to go in on Ashton Craig and call him a first round draft pick?
I'm not willing to go all in on Ashton Craig. I think he does get drafted. I just don't think he's going to be in the first round. And I definitely don't think Joe Otting is going to be a first round draft pick. So that my default is going to be Cam Herron on this one.
Okay. Fair enough. You're going to go with much upside as opposed to
just young bare bones. Again, Ashton Craig's going to get drafted, but he has an injury bug issue, and I just don't think it's going to. It's not going to be the first. He's just not a first round talent. He's going to play in the NFL. He's just not a first round talent.
We are predicting which current Notre Dame players we think will have the best chance to be the next at their position to be first-round NFL draft picks. We've got a list of all the Notre Dame players at each position, and who was the last Notre Dame player to go in the first round. And this next one, this position group, is the second longest that's been waiting. It's the defensive side of the ball. Eric Dorsey, 1986, went with the 19th pick to the New York Giants. He won a pair of Super Bowls for the New York Giants, but no Notre Dame defensive end has gone in the first round of the NFL draft in now 40 years. We're not going to see one tonight. Which Irish defensive end has the best chance to be the next defensive end drafted in the first round?
Yeah, I think if this person really maximizes their talent this season and reaches their ceiling, I think it's going to be Boubacar Traore. If he doesn't do it, I am 70% sure it'll be Rodney Dunham.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Dunham. Joe Allen says Young. I got to see a lot more production out of Bryce Young first. Like he's a guy he's going to be drafted someplace, but to turn himself into a first round guy, I mean, like I wouldn't say this is a make or break season by any chance. He didn't start playing football until high school, so there's still a lot of growth and a lot of development for Bryce
Must
Young.
be nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, don't you just hate those guys? Yeah, I didn't pick up a bat until I was a junior in high school, and now I'm in the major leagues. You know, those kind of guys. Boubacar Traore is my pick, though, as well. If he has the kind of season that he has, he's got an excellent shot to go in the first round next year. Like when you sit back and think about it, Notre Dame's got a chance, especially if they go as far as they possibly, as we think they can as a team. They're going to have a chance to hear a lot of names called in the first round next year. But I'm going to go with Boubacar as well to break that defensive end streak for Notre Dame in the first round. Jerry Tillery, hasn't been that long for him, but it has been 7 years. Defensive tackle. He's the last Notre Dame defensive tackle to go in the first to the Chargers. Who's your pick of current defensive tackles for the Irish who you think could go in the first round?
Yeah, I feel like this is almost cheating, but Francis Brouillou is going to be my pick. He's already on the freaks.
Silent you. You missed you were away when they did pronunciation day. Just Francis.
He's on the freak list. A lot of production already. Obviously, he's got the strength to play in the NFL. But like we talked yesterday, playing those Partridge quotes about the defensive line, I think if he can really clean up some of his technique and finesse stuff this season, he's going to give himself a really good chance to be a first-round draft pick.
I thought about him. I gave him some long consideration because obviously of the defensive tackles on the roster, I think he's closest to being a first-round guy right now. Bitten by the party animal, says Armel Mukam. I mean, I'd like to see, again, more production, more consistent play from
Are you going with Gray?
I am not. I am going to go even younger. As I talk, I guess, out of one side of my mouth and say I'd like to see more production from Armel Mukam. I'm going to go with the incoming freshman, Christopher Burgess Jr., a freshman, high-end four-star guy. He's 300 pounds right now with more room to continue to fill out that frame. And so I'm going to say Christopher Burgess Jr. is the best shot for Notre Dame at defense to be the next defensive tackle to go in the first round. How about linebacker? This is the longest drought. Bob Crable in 1982, the last Notre Dame linebacker to go in round number 1 to the Jets at number 23. We all thought that Manti Te'o was going to end that drought in 2013, but he ended up going in the second round instead. So who's the Notre Dame linebacker that you give the best chance to go in the first round in the future?
Yeah, I think everyone should listen up because if there's something that someone knows about linebackers, it's me. I'm going with KVA. I think that his ceiling is higher than Drake Bowen. Drake Bowen's a really good linebacker. He's going to play in the NFL. It's just when you hear people talk about the linebacker room, even I think I heard a clip from Bussin' with the Boys when they were talking about it's just KVA is different, and especially when he's coming off the edge, the way that he can rush the passer. He's almost like that Micah Parsons position where he plays a hybrid between linebacker and defensive end. So NFL teams are going to love that because he's going to be able to create sacks. And I don't think Drake Bowen is nearly as good at creating sacks.
Yep. I mean, he's got the most versatility in his game, the speed rush, and, can obviously play sideline to sideline as well. There's just so much that Kingston Biliamu-Asa can do. So he's my first pick. He's my pick for the linebacker that has the best chance to go in the first round as well. Cornerback, Jeff Burris, 1994. It's amazing some of these positions, how long it's been. Burris went to the Bills at number 27. Are we all pretty much rubber stamping Leonard Moore?
Yeah,
here?
I mean, we don't even have to waste our time on this one unless something catastrophic happens. He's going to be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah. I feel like safety, there's a lot more options. And this is the last position that we have. Kyle Hamilton in 2022 went to the Ravens at number 14. Which safety for Notre Dame, which current Notre Dame safety are you given the best chance to be the next to hear his name called in the first round of the draft?
Yeah, I really like Adon Schuler, but I have to go with Tay Johnson on this one. I just think he's got a little like Adon Schuler is a little tiny bit undersized for me, a little bit tiny, but I love the way that he plays in the run game. I just think that naturally Tay Johnson's a better ball hawk. He's got longer arms, legs, so his reach and that sort of stuff is going to test better. NFL teams really look at that stuff. I think when you're coming, when you're considering a first round draft pick, but I think as long as Tay Johnson continues to fill the alleys and tackle on the perimeter the way Adon Schuler can, I think he will certainly lock up his first round draft pick.
I totally agree. So much speed and athleticism there, and again, versatility in his game. He can cover and as you said, fill the alley as well. So I'm going with Tay Johnson as my pick for the next safety to have a chance to go in the first round of the draft. LaKuka says Joey O'Brien. I mean, basically for me, it went Johnson, Schuler, O'Brien. O'Brien still has just like some physical growth to do. I mean, there's obvious talent there, but I think Tay Johnson's going to have a really good shot at going next year, and especially, like with the kind of secondary that Notre Dame is going to have. I think people are going to be talking a lot about it. I mean, to me, I don't know if Notre Dame is going to have, four guys being talked about as top 10 picks like Ohio State, a year from now. But I think easily at least two of those guys could hear their names called in the top 10. And, there's an outside chance that four guys, I think, could end up there.
Yeah, next year, the draft class for Notre Dame is going to be absolutely loaded. Probably going to be one of their best draft classes of all time, especially when you're talking about first round talent.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so those are our picks for current Notre Dame players at each position group that we feel like have the best chance to be first-round draft picks. The next first-round draft pick at those position groups. After a timeout, we'll come back, and you will hear my conversation with Notre Dame great Steve Beuerlein, the former Notre Dame quarterback, former Notre Dame and NFL quarterback, in town this weekend for the Blue Gold festivities and what they call Legends Weekend. We'll talk about that and more coming up next, including playing for both Lou Holtz and Jimmy Johnson at Notre Dame and with the Dallas Cowboys, and that crossover effect. Jimmy Johnson, when he was head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, running things up against the Fighting Irish when they played last. So, back in those days. All right, so we'll take a timeout. Steve Beuerlein interview coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Well, we are excited to be joined by one of the Notre Dame greats with us today. He is here with Heartflow, Steve Beuerlein. Steve, how are you today?
Sean, I'm doing great, and I appreciate you including me in your show today. Really enjoy getting a chance to come back to the South Bend area and talk a little bit of Notre Dame, and then obviously other things that are important to me as well.
Well, this is there's a lot going on, obviously, around Notre Dame this weekend. We've got the Blue Gold game coming up here this Saturday, and it's also Legacy Weekend at Notre Dame. And I think that's at least part of why you're in town. With your daughter being a student at Notre Dame, that kind of makes it even more fun. But what exactly does Legacy Weekend entail at Notre Dame?
Well, I've got a lot of reasons to be excited about being here this weekend. You mentioned my daughter here. She's a sophomore now, so I'm getting to experience Notre Dame as a parent, which is really cool. But Legacy Weekend has really been the evolution here in a very short period of time under Marcus Freeman has been fantastic. As former players, we all, over the years have talked about how, we'd love to have, someone that could unify everybody and bring everybody together on a regular basis in conjunction with, what's going on with Notre Dame football. And Marcus Freeman and his staff and the athletic department in general have done a great job just creating this idea into an actual living thing that just continues to evolve and develop and get better each and every year. They allow any former Notre Dame football players to come back for the weekend and be a part of the festivities. Not only you get a ticket to the Blue Gold game, but they have several activities throughout the course of the weekend that we can all jump in and take part of. Our families are actually invited this year, even down to, bringing kids along if you want to take part in some of the activities. The Golick family obviously has a golf tournament now related to and part of the Legacy Weekend. So really impressed with what Marcus Freeman has been able to do. And he's got a buzz going, not only with what he's doing on the football field with the team, but also in former players really feeling like we're back a part of things now. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and I mean that's got to mean a lot for former players, regardless of which sort of generation that you came from. When the current team has that kind of buzz, but has someone at the top like Marcus Freeman who wants to involve everyone, because that's obviously not always been the case.
Right, and it's genuine. I mean, it's not. He's not just giving it lip service and talking about it. He's making it a priority. And whenever I have a chance to run into him, which is usually at different Notre Dame events over the course of the year, don't ever really have a chance to sit down and spend a lot of time with him, but he's always making a point. Hey, you're coming back for Legacy Weekend, right? We love seeing you, and tell everybody, spread the word. We've got plenty of room for everybody. We want to continue to make it better. So it's a genuine deal. It's an outreach that I think they see the benefit in. And obviously we enjoy feeling like we're part of things still.
And of course, many other things going on, beginning with the NFL draft, first round of the draft, obviously coming up tonight. You were drafted by the Raiders in 1987. And, it's like, you think draft coverage has obviously changed quite a bit in the nearly 40 years. Like what do you remember sort of about your draft experience and just sort of how it was covered even back then?
Well, it was a different animal. And I can tell you, I was staying in a friend's house on Notre Dame Avenue. The house isn't even there anymore, with all the development that's gone on. But they televised back at that time. This is in 1987. They televised the first 3 rounds of the draft, and I was I had a few friends were there, but my family was back in California, and I was a student at Notre Dame, and they didn't bring potential mid-round draft choices back to New York. They didn't even bring first-round draft choices back to New York at that time. And I just remember after the 3rd round, coverage went off. I just said, I'm going to go up and take a nap. And, had no idea when I was going to get the phone call or if I was going to get the phone call. Sure enough, about an hour later or whatever it was, I got a call from the Raiders toward the end of the 4th round, and they said they were going to pick me, and I was going to be going back home to L.A. because they were the L.A. Raiders at the time. And so it was a very exciting time for sure. And, just being able to, be able to live that dream from that perspective, getting drafted, obviously didn't know what the future was going to hold for me. Had no idea, no anticipation that I would make it over 10 years in the league, much less get to 17 years in the NFL. So it ended up being the start of a really cool journey through the NFL for 17 years. A lot of ups and downs along the way, but overall, obviously, really lucky to be a part of it.
You were a few years later down the road, like you said, as your career progressed, you were the top pick in the expansion draft when Jacksonville came into the league. What's that feeling like, to kind of be that guy? Obviously, there's a lot less fanfare even, around an expansion draft compared to the draft, I guess.
Well, yeah. And, the novelty of being the number one pick a lot of times is overrated. And, I was the number one pick in that expansion draft. There were only 2 teams picking. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers. And
right.
Both teams had told me they were going to pick me with the first pick if they had won the coin toss. I really wanted to go to Carolina, and as you know, I ended up going to Carolina and having a great experience there. But Jacksonville won the coin toss, and I went in with a good attitude. But as much respect as I have for Tom Coughlin as a coach and all he was able to accomplish with the Giants in his later endeavors with them. It didn't go very well with me in Jacksonville. I loved the city of Jacksonville. I loved the people, but none of what Tom Coughlin promised me before they picked me with that expansion draft pick came true. He did not treat me very fairly, and had nothing to do with performance. I mean, he pulled me out of the first game in the history of the franchise in the 3rd quarter. We were losing 7-0 to the Houston Oilers in the first game ever for the franchise. And I hadn't turned the ball over. I wasn't playing poorly. We were a franchise, that was playing their first game ever.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the 3rd quarter, one of our running backs fumbled the ball. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but one of our running backs fumbled as we were going in for a touchdown. And Coughlin pulled me out and put in Mark Brunell. And so immediately that told me that he was looking for an opportunity to get Mark Brunell in there. And I got nothing against Mark Brunell, but Tom Coughlin, that's a different story. He wasn't very good to me. So fortunately, the next year I ended up finding my way to Carolina, and
right.
That was a really nice 5-year run there.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit different story once you got to Carolina.
A little bit of vindication, a little bit of being able to reestablish myself as a starting quarterback, and everything went really well there. We never quite got over the hump in terms of getting to the playoffs, but I had 2.5 of my 5 years there where I was the starter. 1 year I led the NFL in passing and went to the Pro Bowl, so it was a nice run. Well,
of course, we lost the great Lou Holtz here recently, and you got to play for Lou in your last year at Notre Dame in 1986. Your last year was his first year, of course, coming in here to Notre Dame. What was that experience like for you playing for Lou Holtz in like I said, your last year, his first year at Notre Dame?
Yeah, that was a gift my senior year that kept on giving for the next 40 years. I was always jealous of the players that got to have more than 1 year with Lou Holtz. But I'm so grateful for the 1 year I had. Went through a lot of adversity, a lot of ups and downs, some things out of my control with Jerry Faust my first 3 years. And I really didn't think that when the change was made and Lou Holtz was hired, that I was even going to get a chance to play as a senior. I thought he was going to move in a different direction, go with a younger quarterback. And obviously I wasn't super mobile, and he was always known for using mobile quarterbacks. And I just didn't think I was going to get a chance to play. But fortunately for me, we had Tim Brown out there, and Lou believed that if I get myself healthy, I played my junior year with a shoulder that really I should have been redshirted that year, but that's a whole other story. But he felt that if I get myself healthy, he was going to give me the first chance to be the quarterback because he thought I could get the ball to Tim Brown. And that year changed my life. I got myself back in shape and was able to have a really positive year and ended up becoming, as we talked about before, a 4th-round draft choice. And but Lou was always there for me over the next 40 years, really, literally. I talked to him 3 or 4 weeks before he passed away. He was struggling at the time, but right up until the very end, he was impacting me and a lot of us in very positive ways.
Could you have seen, in that first year, that you got to spend with him, that a national championship was going to be so soon on the horizon for Notre Dame?
Oh yeah. I mean, we knew it. We knew we had players even under Coach Faust. We knew that we could match up with anybody physically. We just didn't have any direction, and we never had the confidence in what we were doing to be able to go into big games and believe that we were going to be able to match up and play well and find a way to get it done. Lou Holtz brought that in, and as well as obviously he recruited at a different level, recruited the type of players that he knew he needed to bring in to win that national championship. The guys like Tony Rice and Jerome Bettis, and you go down the list of all the guys that were there for those years. Absolutely fantastic teams, and we knew without a doubt that he was going to get it going, get it turned around. We felt at the end of that first year, we ended up 5-6, but as you know, we lost 5 of those 6 games by a total of 14 points to top 10 teams in the country. Games that we were right there at the very end. Could have won, should have won some of those games. Michigan and Penn State, who ended up winning the national championship that year. We beat them really on the field right here at Notre Dame, right at the end zone opposite the touchdown Jesus. I hit my tight end to the back of the end zone. We didn't make the play. We had a chance to beat them. We didn't. They go on to win the national championship. So that's how close we were to having a really special season that year. We knew that it was going to turn pretty quickly.
So an interesting twist, and full disclosure, people who listen to this show know this. I grew up a fan of Notre Dame, but I also grew up a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. And so early in your professional career, you go from, I think it's 3 years with the Raiders, you get traded to the Dallas Cowboys. And there's this guy named Jimmy Johnson, of course, who was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys by that point. And I was pretty torn when they fire, one of my childhood idols, Tom Landry, and here comes Jimmy Johnson from the Miami Hurricanes. So I'm curious for you, as someone who had that Notre Dame, Miami, Jimmy Johnson experience in your college career, and now you're playing for Jimmy there early on. What were some of your feelings, going into that situation, playing for Jimmy?
Well, you think you were torn. Let me tell you, it was torn. So I went through what I went through. Yeah, we were the receiving end of that last game of the Jerry Faustish episode or whatever you want to call it, and it was a very, very painful ending to that period of time with Jerry Faust. And Jimmy Johnson ran the score up on us, embarrassed us, and that started the whole Catholics versus convicts kind of relationship there between the schools. Then I went to the Raiders, and I got to play early. My second year in the league, I was starting under Mike Shanahan. He wanted me to be the quarterback. Al Davis brought in Jay Schrader, wanted Jay Schrader to be the quarterback. It led to Mike Shanahan getting fired, and then me in my 4th year with the Raiders. I actually had 4 years there. The 4th year, though, I didn't play because Al Davis kept me kind of in exile. And, when I finally got traded to the Cowboys, obviously I was very relieved to be out of the situation with the Raiders. But now I got to go play for Jimmy Johnson. And I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, of all things. And I'll tell you, he put an end to my apprehension the first time I met him. Literally, I was walking down to meet him, and he happened to be coming out of his office. And here we are face to face in the hallway. And he said, "Steve Beuerlein." He goes, "It's a pleasure to meet you, son." And I said, "Coach," I never thought I'd see the day I'd be playing for you. And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, neither did I." But I'll tell you something. He goes, "We got some coaches here that think you can help us win a championship." He goes, "I'm glad you're here." And I said, "Well, you know what? If it's that easy for you to get past it, I can get past it too. I'm excited that you want me here, and I'm looking forward to contributing any way I can. And then obviously the rest of it took care of itself.
Right. I mean, obviously you were part of that Cowboys team that got back to the playoffs, in that for, starting for Jimmy Johnson next year. Aikman is the starter, and you guys win the Super Bowl, and you're part of a Super Bowl championship team. And I'm curious, like, why we've talked about this on our show recently. There are very few coaches who have had success both at the college level and at the professional level. Jimmy Johnson is one of them. What about him do you think made him, gave him the ability to have success, so much success at both levels?
Well, I'm going to put a little plug in for myself and for the Cowboys story in general. If you watch episode 2 of the Netflix documentary that just came out this last spring,
right,
on America's team, that's called The Gambler and His Cowboys, where it tells the Jerry Jones story and the rise and fall of the Cowboys in the 90s. Well, the episode 2 talks about the 1991 season, where I came in and finished out the year for Troy. And had a really nice run down the stretch and got the Cowboys back to the playoffs. We won a playoff game. It was the first time the Cowboys had won a playoff game in like 10 years. And so the next year when Troy was healthy, we ended up winning the Super Bowl. But you see how Jimmy Johnson kind of masterminded all this stuff, and the way that he motivated us and the way that he went about making his decisions and the thought process. I was always so impressed with his ability. He was a psychology major in college, and I don't know what kind of an academic institution Oklahoma or Arkansas where he went is, but he came out of it obviously with a great understanding of how to motivate and how to mentally prepare athletes to win championships, because he had tremendous success obviously at Miami, and then the documented success with the Dallas Cowboys, turning that franchise around. Truly really learned a lot in playing for him, and was really impressed with how he was able to make his decisions. The difficult decisions, he made them easy. It was very, very cut and dry for him, the way he went about doing it, and the way that he communicated with us. We knew that if we didn't do it his way, we were not going to be around. But if we did do it his way, he was going to engage you, and you were going to find a way to win, and win big. And we all believed that. And sure enough, the results kind of spoke for themselves.
I mean, obviously another guy who was, one of the key spokes in the wheel back then, part of the triplets, was Emmitt Smith. And that was a time where it was pretty common for guys, whether it was Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, to be taken high in the NFL draft. And, all the buzz is Jeremiah Love going up there at the top. It's been quite a while since running backs were taken that high consistently in the draft. Would you have any hesitation at all about taking a guy like Jeremiah's, that high?
No, I think he's the exception to the rule. I think Saquon Barkley fit that bill, several years back with the Giants, and obviously he had some injury issues, which is the fear with the running back. But I think Jeremiah Love is that guy. He's him, if you want to use the current technology or terminology. But yeah, I mean, he's regarded as, I think, the second best prospect in this year's draft, and I think rightfully so. He's got a lot of things that you can't coach. That explosiveness, the ability to instinctively just know where to go with the football and how to anticipate what the defender is going to do, whether it's hurdling over him or pulling his reverse pivot moves that he does, and then the explosiveness to take it to the house, both receiving the ball out of the backfield and as a running back, just traditional running the ball too. He can do it all, and he's going to be an impact player wherever he goes. And I think his style of play lends itself to maybe not being as, and I hope I'm not saying anything negative, knock on wood, but I think he's going to be a running back that can avoid the normal wear and tear that running backs get in the NFL. His body type and the way that he is able to avoid a lot of, direct force, blunt hits, I think makes him very unique, and he's going to be more available than running backs have been, I think, in recent years.
I've peppered you with a lot of questions. I want to get one more in here before we talk about heart flow. I do have to mention, you're the only Notre Dame quarterback to ever go 4-0 in your career against Southern Cal, which is obviously, pretty great distinction. And we're not going to see Southern Cal on the schedule anymore, at least for the immediate future. So what do you think about seeing that historic series come to an end?
Well, first of all, we didn't have a whole lot to be proud of during my years at Notre Dame with the 3 years under Jerry Faust and 1 under Lou. But coming from Southern California, growing up out there, I could always go home with a smile on my face. We were 4-0, as you said, against USC. So I could always come home with bragging rights about that game. But it really is a very hard thing to process and understand. That game meant so much to both universities, and to try to comprehend that it's not part of the plans going forward is just so hard to rectify in my mind. Notre Dame USC was always part of the deal, no matter what. And it's sad. And I think a lot of us, we talk about it, we're very upset about it on both sides of the coin. There's a lot of finger pointing going on. Notre Dame people blaming USC people blaming Notre Dame. The bottom line in today's college football, the way things have gone, there's so many other things that impact these decisions. And it's just a shame because it really stood for everything great about college football.
Independence is part of the deal for Notre Dame. What does that mean to someone like you?
Notre Dame is people are always throwing darts and taking shots at Notre Dame for that part of it. And but the answer is very simple. Notre Dame is the only school that can do it. They can literally pull it off, being an independent. We don't need a conference. Now, obviously, in recent years, especially this past year, it hurt us not being a part of a conference, and the strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. That, if that wasn't a topic of conversation, I don't think there's any doubt that Notre Dame would have been in the college football playoff. But it's going to be a conversation that's going to continue until a decision is made one way or the other to change it. I love the independence. I love the fact that Notre Dame can control their own schedule, their own destiny, so to speak. But there's a lot of people that make really good arguments as to why Notre Dame should give in and go to a conference. But it's going to have to be a perfect scenario for Notre Dame to even consider that. We all know that.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, you've got that HeartFlow logo on the front of your shirt there. And like I said, that's why you're here, to talk about HeartFlow with some important information. It begins with the first word, heart. So what can you tell us about HeartFlow, Steve?
Well, first off, right at the very beginning, I'm going to tell you, for people that are watching, if you want to learn more about HeartFlow, go to heartflow.com/football. And you'll learn all you need to know about, where to go to be a part of this really exciting technology that really is addressing the issue that is the number one killer of people in the world, and that is heart disease. And when you look at all the numbers and all the things that go into determining, what the top killers and the top issues in medical science are, heart disease always comes out as number one. And it's a silent killer because you can go for years without even having any kind of a sign or a symptom that you might have heart disease or something to be concerned about. And then all of a sudden it shows up with that surprise event. 50% of the people that have a heart attack or any kind of a serious heart episode had no indication that there was any problem with their heart. And so it's a surprise. And what HeartFlow is doing through their incredible technology, and it's an AI-inspired technology that they go in and they actually are able to analyze the heart from a 3D perspective and really attack the areas where you're vulnerable, that you can find out from a lot of different perspectives. If there's any kind of plaque buildup in your heart, if there's any kind of issues to be concerned about, you see right in front of you where those issues are, and you can get out in front. That allows you, as we know, early detection allows you to go out and be proactive in how you address it and how you plan and how you can proactively address the issues that may come as a result of the issues with heart disease.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I've got a little friend that sits right here in my chest, and like you said, I didn't know that anything was going on until all of a sudden there I was.
A lot of people have that same issue, and the fact that HeartFlow has been able to come up with this technology, and they're now obviously the word is out, and if you can proactively find yourself into a healthcare provider that does provide that it does have the relationship with HeartFlow, I think it's really important to get out and take advantage of that. My own personal history, my family has a significant history of heart disease. So obviously my three brothers and I are very concerned about that, whether we inherited that from our parents. And, what this relationship with HeartFlow has done for me, I was able to go through a study that they've put together for former professional athletes. It's called Game Film. And what they do is they put us through this very quick, non-invasive procedure where you go through the HeartFlow technology. And for me, the results came back very, very positive. But what that does for me is it gives me peace of mind and confidence. It's kind of empowered me to know that, hey, maybe I don't have the same issues that my dad had. I'm not going to have these issues. And so that's empowered me to really feel good. And you know how important it is when you lay down at night, when you know that you don't have to worry about your heart. That's a huge deal. Now, obviously, I'm 61 years old now, and so I've got to pay attention to other things. But knowing that my heart is in good shape for a normal 61-year-old guy is really an empowering, thing to know. So
Heartflow.com
/gamefilm/football. That's right. You got it. In the South Bend area, it's important also that people know through Beacon Health. Find they've got a relationship with HeartFlow, and you can find a doctor near you that can give you all the information you need. So
excellent, very good stuff. HeartFlow. Steve, I appreciate it. I could have done this for another half hour or so. I kept you a little bit longer than I thought we would, but a lot of great stuff from you. I appreciate your time. Have a good weekend here in town.
Well, you and me both, Sean. It was a lot of fun catching up, and I look forward to doing it again sometime.
All right. Thanks again.
Go Irish. We'll see you.
That is Steve Beuerlein and HeartFlow. You can check him out, heartflow.com/football. Like he said, find out about heart health. Jesse's going to rejoin me coming up. We've got a quick timeout, and then around the top of the hour, we've got rapid fire. Plenty of NFL draft talk. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and more coming up in rapid fire in the 6 o'clock hour. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Hour 2 of the show. Sean Stiers, Jesse Stiers. We are here for your listening pleasure and viewing pleasure if you're watching on YouTube. And of course, you can always watch the show on the YouTube channel, whether it's Irish Breakdowns YouTube channel or the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. You can watch it live. You can watch it after the fact, whatever you choose to do. And you can also download the podcasts as well. All right, we've got some time here. We do have a South Bend Cubs baseball game coming up, but of course, we've got the NFL draft coming up live at 8 o'clock tonight. We're all ready for it. Jeremiah Love, rumored to possibly go to the Arizona Cardinals with the number 3 overall pick tonight. Earlier today on ESPN, Jordan Rogers had this to say about that possibility of the Cardinals selecting Jeremiah Love at number 3 overall. Strap in for this one.
Circumstance can you take Jeremiah Love number 3?
Correct.
You're going to owe him $50 million in guaranteed money. That's more than Saquon, more than Christian McCaffrey, more than Derrick Henry. You can't do that, especially when you don't have a quarterback. You don't have an offensive identity right now. You can't add a player like that and expect to then take the next step with a running back. It doesn't happen. And I love Jeremiah Love as a prospect, but also he's not a generational player. If you go back and look at college, he didn't do great against the best defenses he played. He got shut down last year in a bowl game. I mean, that early 2025 against Ohio State had like 8 total yards. Miami shut him down week 1, and then they didn't really play anybody after that. So I didn't see the production against elite defenses that tells me that's a generational player. No matter if the value doesn't match, you take him at 3 or top 5. I just don't see it.
Okay, I do love the look on Dan Orlovsky's face as he's listening to this stuff by Jordan Rogers. For those watching on the YouTube channel, it is quite a face that Orlovsky was giving him. So, Jesse, your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, there's really a lot to unpack there. I don't mind his analysis on, Love going to the Cardinals, because that's exactly what I've been saying. Yeah, that I'm fine with, because he like he pointed out, the Cardinals have so many flaws that a running back isn't where you begin to fix the foundational issues that the Arizona Cardinals have. So I have no issue with that. After that, to say he's not a generational player, he's better than Ashton Genty. He has better comps than Ashton Genty. And Ashton Genty last year
Don't tell Boise fans that, but I agree with you.
he was like the holy child. And if you want to say that Jeremiah Love didn't play anyone, well, who did Ashton Genty play in the Mountain West Conference last season, right? And so I think that debunks that first and foremost. And it's clear that Rogers works for ESPN, because coming out and saying that they didn't play anyone after Miami, it's like, did you not see the game that he put up against USC? That's a really good, program. It's just, I get it if you want to say that like he picked up clunky yards here and there, but he broke off like 90-yard touchdown runs, 50-yard touchdown runs. Like not anyone does it, and you don't see that explosiveness and speed out of just every running back to come into the NFL draft.
Because look, and we talked about this last night. I do agree with, does it make sense for the Cardinals at number 3 overall to select Jeremiah Love? Probably not, but it's all the other stuff that he tries to build his case on about Jeremiah Love not being generational. And look, who else? You probably got to go back to Jahmyr Gibbs, since you saw a running back that's similar to what Jeremiah Love does. And I don't hear this name tossed around a lot, but like the receiving ability that he has, you can go back to a guy like Thurman Munson, or not Thurman Munson, not the Yankees catcher, Thurman Thomas, the Buffalo Bills running back, who of course helped them, win get to 4 Super Bowls. He was teammates of Barry Sanders at Oklahoma State, Thurman Thomas, like that kind of dual threat ability, a LaDainian Tomlinson type of guy, like those kind of guys. I do think Jeremiah Love is generational, because like Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't even expected to be drafted as high as he was. A lot of people thought that the Lions, myself included, that the Lions were crazy for taking him, but look how that turned out. But talking about what Love did or didn't do against good defenses, I mean, he had 147 yards and 2 total yards and 2 touchdowns against Texas A&M, for starters, a team that obviously made it to the college football playoff. He had 147 rushing yards against Pittsburgh, a team that ended up being the number 10 rushing defense in the nation this year. Like he's nitpicking about Ohio State in the national championship game.
Yeah, but they had to start throwing the ball.
Well, not only did they have to start throwing the ball, but it was obvious he had the MCL that he suffered was bothering him. Stacking all those games against Georgia, Penn State, and Ohio State, the knee was progressively bothering him after he had the huge game against Indiana. And, look at Indiana, another top 10 rush defense in the college football playoff. And he had the longest run in college football playoff history against that defense, which is still, as of right now, Indiana's last loss that they suffered. So you can go on down the line and try to nitpick him if you want, if you're Jordan Rodgers. So again, I agree that he's not the best fit for Arizona because of all their needs. But, the other side of this is any team picking that high has a lot of needs. But, if you're Jordan Rodgers, are you saying, okay, all these things, but he's not a good fit for Arizona. So what, one more pick? Is he an okay fit for Tennessee? Because I think the general consensus is he's the top overall talent in this draft, and he's trying to deny that he's a generational type guy. When has anyone talked about a running back being the top overall talent going into an NFL draft? It's been a long time.
It has been a long time, and it's just lazy at the end of the day. He's just falling into the typical kind of narrative that like, you know what I mean? Like that was the easy thing for everyone to say working at ESPN at the end of last season. While after Miami, they didn't play anyone. And it's like, okay, well, did you actually look into things, or are you just going to regurgitate what everyone else is saying?
Yeah. And for those like Stymie who are wondering exactly who Jordan Rodgers is, he did play quarterback at Vanderbilt. He was a college quarterback, SEC network type guy. Also the younger brother of Aaron Rodgers.
Is he really?
He is. You didn't know that?
No.
The younger brother. Yeah. Jordan Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers' younger brother.
Well, they don't really talk to each other, right?
No, they don't. As far as we know anyway, that's still what the reports are. But yeah. So that's I think that helps Jordan Rodgers in his career.
It makes
he's solid at what he
line
does sometimes. I feel like this is like we landed here on draft day and someone had to bring the hot takes finally,
right,
against Jeremiah Love. And so this is the hot take of hot takes, that Jeremiah Love is not worthy of being drafted.
Yeah, I guess, are we surprised that someone finally hit the hot take button on the day of the draft and said, I don't think Jeremiah Love is a generational player?
Yeah. Well, actually, okay, fill in the blank. It's been 33 years since Notre Dame had a running back picked in the first round of the NFL draft. We talked about that in the first hour of the show. Jerome Bettis to the Rams in 1993, the last Notre Dame running back to go in the first round. Jeremiah Love is going to end that streak tonight. The impact of that is blank for Notre Dame.
I'm going to go with exponential. The reason I'm going to go with exponential is because Notre Dame has a long-standing tradition of first-round draft picks that just really aren't sexy at the end of the day. They get offensive linemen in there. They get some tight ends in there every now and then. But like everyone's dream as a young player and a recruit is to be a skill position player and go in the first round of the draft pick, whether that's quarterback, running back, or wide receiver. And that's obviously what Notre Dame has missed since really, outside of like Will Fuller That's what they've missed since the Charlie Weiss days. Michael Floyd, Brady Quinn, Golden Tate, those kind of guys. Like, that's what Notre Dame has missed, is the premier offensive positions going in the first round pick. And so when Jeremiah Love's name is called tonight, I don't know how many guys are going to be watching, but to me, it gives another notch for why you should go to Notre Dame, because they're just checking more and more things off the list at the end of the day. And I think it goes a long way to see, someone like Jeremiah Love go in the first round, because it's like, now Notre Dame is proving that they can do it. They're not up to the same par as like Ohio State and maybe Georgia and Alabama and Texas and all those schools, but they're now getting into the conversation. And I think that'll go a long way with recruits.
It's the continued elevation and profile raising of the program at Notre Dame. And it begins with things like this. Can you have running backs drafted in the first round? Can you have more wide receivers drafted in the first round? Can you have quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and not just offensive linemen and maybe a tight end every few years? We went through that list. It's kind of incredible how long it's been since some of these different position groups, like a defensive end hasn't been picked in the first round by, as a Notre Dame player since 1986, a linebacker since 1982, a running back, as we're talking about, since 1993, 33 years, like your lifetime plus. So guys your age and obviously younger, they haven't seen this kind of thing yet. And it's massive for Notre Dame. And again, it's like you're telling, like, Jeremiah Love has just been a walking poster boy profile for Notre Dame and what you can become by being a recruit and going to Notre Dame and play football. And we're just going to continue to see more of it. By the way, Lakuka likes your exponential 79 Scrabble points, he says, for that one. Check out the big brain on Jesse. Yeah. Went to the thesaurus for that one. All right, we'll talk about Jadarian Price here in a minute. But while we're on the topic of these top picks, let's predict the first 5 picks of the draft. It's crazy to me because really there's almost no conversation about what's going on. Like there's a little bit with Fernando Mendoza, like you see it. It definitely feels like most of the conversation continues to be about Jeremiah Love and what exactly spot he is going to end up going in. And then the Ohio State guys kind of mixed in there. Number one, do you have any reason to believe that it will be anyone other than Fernando Mendoza?
No, number one is definitely Fernando Mendoza. But after that, that's when we can actually start to have some fun.
It's where the draft begins, I think. So the Jets select at number 2. And this is really the pick that nobody's talking about at all. Like you hear almost no conversation about what's going to happen with the Jets at number 2. Like you haven't even really heard them, in terms of potential trade talks or any of that kind of stuff. So what do you think is going to happen with the Jets with the number 2 pick?
Yeah, I think that it's really cut and dry. It's either David Bailey or Arvell Reese. I think they're going to go with Bailey from Texas Tech, and then that will lead me into pick number 3.
And that's the same with me. I think it's going to be, I believe, one of those 2 guys. David Bailey, again, flies under the radar because he's not one of these Ohio State guys. He's not Fernando Mendoza, and he's not Jeremiah Love. So we haven't heard nearly as much of him, but the guy had 14.5 sacks last year.
He's a true edge rusher.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the Jets are going to take Bailey. I think it's going to be Bailey. Like you said, Reese or Bailey. I think it's going to be Bailey. Okay, so then the disputed what's going to happen next as we get into picks 3 and 4. The Cardinals pick at 3. The Tennessee Titans pick at 4. The New York Giants at number 5. So what do you think happens with the Cardinals?
I think the Cardinals trade their pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they select Arvell Reese at number 3.
You think so, huh?
I think the Chiefs are going to bluff and smokescreen that they're trading up to take Jeremiah Love, but I think that they want to pair someone. They need help desperately on the defensive line. They have one of the best defensive tackles in the game, and I think that they want to get the other premier defensive end to pair alongside Chris Jones. So I'm going to say the Chiefs trade up, because I don't think the Cardinals obviously have a lot of needs, but not with the number 3 pick. I think that they can get who they want with a few picks back, because they're not going to go for someone like Jeremiah Love or a quarterback or any of these defensive players. I think they're going to trade back and really stockpile some first-round picks. Not to get too deep, but I think they're going to go offensive lineman and then eventually take Ty Simpson somewhere later in the draft.
You think the Cardinals will? They'll trade down, take an offensive lineman, then Simpson lower in the draft. I think, was it 29 they have, something like that?
Yeah, I think back into the first – I think they go offensive lineman, and then they'll use that number 29 pick on Ty Simpson.
Yeah, Lukuka says the Chiefs can get a defensive end.
Yeah, but there's a difference between Arvell Reese and the rest of the class.
Right. These guys are being talked about as top 5 picks for a reason, and that's why they're in demand, and that's why you trade up there.
I mean, he is Micah Parsons. He's an outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid. I mean, the way that people talk about he like shoots out of a cannon. He's one of the best tacklers in the draft. He can rush. He can cover the outside. I think that the Chiefs are going to fall in love with him.
Yeah, Bain. He says Bain could fall to him. Maybe they don't want Bain. Maybe they don't.
I think he's undersized for what the Chiefs want.
Yeah, I think like the Chiefs organization, we've seen it more offensively, not necessarily the last couple of years, because like Tyreek Hill has been gone, but they do have Xavier Worthy there. Like the Chiefs, Andy Reid and that organization really prioritizes speed and twitchiness, and that's what you would get with a guy like Arvell Reese. They would get a lot of twitch on that edge. I don't think they want a bigger body like Bain. But we'll see. I definitely think the Cardinals trade that pick. I don't know who it's going to be. Like, I've seen the Chiefs mocked there. I've seen the Saints mocked there and some other teams mocked there. People have, floated the idea of the Cowboys. I don't think Dallas is going to trade up into that position. But I definitely think the Cardinals trade that pick. And I do think between Bailey and Reese, maybe Sonny Styles, but Bailey and Reese first. I think that, those two guys end up in those 2-3 slots, regardless of what the teams end up being. So then this is, for you and I, with the Giants lurking at number 5, this is not good news for you or I or, any fan of an NFC East team that's not the New York Giants, potentially, with Jeremiah Love still sitting there based on what we're doing. Do you think Tennessee takes him at number 4 if he's still available?
I do think that the Tennessee Titans are going to select Jeremiah Love, and the main reason I'm going to confidently say that, you had this in the show rundown. I'm going to revisit this on FanDuel. There's an over/under on Jeremiah Love's draft position, and right now it's set at 4.5. The under is at -240, and the over is at +170. I definitely think that Jeremiah Love goes to the Tennessee Titans at pick number 4. He will not fall past pick number 4. That is his absolute basement, in my opinion.
I really hope that he doesn't. I mean, it's been talked about, and, like the argument that Jordan Rodgers had against Love going at number 3 to the Cardinals is they don't have a quarterback yet, even though, they're not going to take a quarterback that high, obviously. We think that they're going to take maybe Simpson or, they're going to take a quarterback lower than that, but the Titans do have a quarterback, and he's only been in the league for a year. So, like, you pair Cam.
Can you imagine how explosive those two could be together?
I know. That's pretty enticing, and for a Tennessee Titans team that's really, kind of trying to dig itself back out of this hole that they found themselves in after they parted ways with Mike Vrabel, this would you can sell a lot of tickets pairing up guys like Cam Ward and Jeremiah Love. That's a really fun young potential offense.
Don't you think that new offensive coordinator Brian Daboll is dreaming about his days with Saquon Barkley and the comparisons that he's getting? Like, I don't know. I put a good wager. I'm backing what I'm saying. I put a good wager on Jeremiah Love to go number 4 to the Tennessee Titans.
That's where I'm going as well. So we have Fernando Mendoza, David Bailey, Arvell Reese, and Jeremiah Love all off the board with the top 4 picks. That leaves us with number 5. I think Sonny Styles is going to end up going there. What do you think?
I think that the New York Giants are going to go with Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State.
Think
at 5th
so?
overall. I've heard that they're very high. I think they're going to go offense. And I think that they value him as the number 1 wide receiver in the draft over Carnell Tate. What's his name? The wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers that won a Super Bowl, he caught the Super Bowl pass. Hines Ward is the wide receiver coach for Arizona State. I saw this interview that he did talking about him. I mean, the guy basically, I can't remember what the injury was, but he basically played the rest of a game like on a torn hamstring. He's one of the toughest guys in the draft. For the Giants have flown out to Arizona many times to visit with him. I think the Giants are going Jordan Tyson at number 5, but I'm glad that you brought up Sonny Styles. I wish you would have extended this list to number 6.
Well, you said 5. You said you wanted to do 5 picks. So
and I've now gotten into the trenches of it. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to trade with Cleveland Browns and take Sonny Styles at pick number 6.
You think Styles goes at number 6
to Dallas? I think Dallas trades with Cleveland and gets their top defensive player, Sonny Styles, at number 6.
You think that happens? Okay.
Yep.
I would not be disappointed if that does happen. But I would like Styles or Downs. Like I could live with either one of those guys.
See, I want them to go Styles and then grab that Oregon safety later in the round if possible.
Yeah. The Tiedemann or the guy that started off at Purdue. That's up there.
That would if they landed those 2 in the first round, it might be Jerry's best first round draft ever. And that says a lot because they draft really well in the first round.
Yep. I mean, that's, when you get 2 first round picks. Bitten by the party animal wants to know the first man booed tonight. I mean, it's Roger Goodell. Right? Like, is there any doubt about that? I mean, unless someone from Baltimore shows up, I don't know. I don't know who they'd boo other than him. It's got to be Roger Goodell first time he walks out on the stage. Okay, how about Notre Dame's other running back, Jadarian Price? Chance for him to go in the first round. Scale of 1 to 10, what chances do you give that to happen?
I'm going to give this a solid 7 out of 10. And I'm really looking at the Seahawks on the back end of the first round. Would not be surprised if they take him with the very last pick in the first round.
He has plus 700 odds on FanDuel right now to go in the first round.
Ooh, wow. So that is not 7 out of 10. That's like 1 out of 10.
Yeah. It's a little bit lower, but again, it's like so many crazy things can happen and you get some trades and, like the Seattle.
There's going to be a lot of movement tonight.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like so much can happen. I give him, I think a 4, just a little under 50-50. I think there's a chance that it happens, but everything has to go just right for Jadarian Price to end up going in the first round. It's obviously would be late in the first round if indeed it does happen. Yep. John says 5, Josh says 4. So we're all in the same ballpark there. I mean, you can't deny the talent, but there's just obviously so many teams, so many needs. What's your favorite thing about the NFL draft?
My favorite thing about the NFL draft is the first round. But I think that's a pretty cop-out answer. And so I'm going to take this a little bit further. My favorite thing about the draft is it's kind of twofold in my opinion. I love host cities. I think it adds a lot of excitement, adding fans, allowing the basically the whole city to kind of, show up and be a part of the draft. But what I really like is when they start bringing out former players. Maybe it's a kid that's been battling a lifelong cancer. I like seeing them bring out celebrity guest pickers. Basically, I think that there's a lot of fun in that. I love like tonight if they bring out like a Ravens player and the Steelers fans are just absolutely booing him. Like I remember a few years ago, I can't remember who it was when the Cowboys picker, everyone was booing him and he was like, "How about
Drew
them
Pearson,
Cowboys?"
Drew Pearson. That was when the draft
like that's the stuff where it's like
into the Jerry Jones, Gene Jones, and the entire Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, that's the stuff that fires me up. And again, like some of the people that have been through a lot of hardships. I think the NFL does a good job of finding ways to give other people opportunities with the NFL draft. And that's my favorite part.
I like that, but I don't like it in the first round. I like the first round because, like, that's the posterity pick. If you're a first round draft pick, because, like, whenever you look
the first
back,
round doesn't need it. It's the first round.
Right. But I think it needs to be the commissioner in the first round. There might be, because like you said, there might be some, like, a make-a-wish.
You're basically like, give respects to these guys. It's the first round draft pick. They've worked their butt
10
off.
years from now, with the fourth pick of the first round of the 2026 NFL draft, it feels like that needs to be the commissioner. I understand, like, the later picks. It feels to me like that's the time to do it, but we'll probably see at least one guest picker, I think. What's the over-under on guest pickers for you tonight? 1.5.
1.5. I'll take the under. I think that the Steelers will bring out someone for their pick, and that's it.
All right. I'll go over. I think we get 2 guest pickers tonight. My favorite part about the NFL draft, especially in the first round, like, once the first round is, like, really my interest in the first round typically goes to where are the Cowboys picking? How long do I have to watch before they pick? Or, and I think most people can probably say that. It's like, what's my team going to do? And everything else until you get there is pretty much filler. But my favorite thing is when you hear, we have a trade. That is always my favorite thing. It seems to come out of nowhere. It kind of catches you off guard. There's that anticipation, and it's like, okay, what's going to happen? And, again, when you get into day 2 and day 3, these guys start yapping about, all, like the 5th round guy, the center from Wyoming or wherever it happens to be. And they start talking past some of these things happen. Like, you see it on the TV screen. These trades are announced before the guys even start talking about it. But in the first round, everyone's waiting for something to happen. So when you hear, we have a trade, that's my favorite part of the first round specifically when it comes to the NFL draft. And Stymie says, how many trades will we see? So over under is 2.5. Is 2.5 the proper number? Or does it need to be 3.5?
3.5.
3.5. Over under 3.5 trades tonight.
I'm gonna go over. I think that there's a lot of teams in this draft who this draft is. It really depends on what side of the ball you're looking at. If you're going offense, I think that you probably want to trade up because the premier talent it's just not as deep. And I think some of these other teams are going to trade back knowing the defensive depth that they can add and potentially gain a later round pick too. So I'm going to go over. I think that I can already see 2 in my head that I mentioned earlier. And I think that it's so unexpected, right? Like, if we think that there's going to be 2, that there's probably going to be even more than that. So I'll take the over on this at 3.5.
I think so as well. I'm going to go under. I think 3 trades we see. So this will be good for us to see who wins this one. You're going over at 4. I'm going under at 3. I think that there are going to be some teams jockeying to kind of see what happens up there at the top in the middle of the draft. I might be talking myself into 4. I'm gonna hang with 3. I'm gonna hang with 3. I think it's going to be 3 trades tonight. Josh agrees with me, so we will see. 4 is a pretty healthy number for trades in the first round. And I forgot to slide this in there. Stymie says he hopes Price to the Packers. He says he thinks that'll be a fantastic 1-2 punch with Josh Jacobs. That might be a little bit greedy. I don't know if Jadarian's going to go that high. Like, if we're talking first round, I think that's a little bit greedy. Chance for that to happen in the second round, assuming the Packers have a second round pick. Do you think there's any chance Jadarian Price goes before the last pick of the first round to Seattle?
I think that is his best odds or probability about going. I think it's basically all or nothing. Seattle or bust.
So as well. I think so as well, especially because of the specific need that they have for running back. Here's a Ringer special, The Ringer, like the Ringer.com at FanDuel. They've got a couple specials. Dallas Cowboys to draft 2 defensive players in the first round is -230. The Giants to draft 2 players. The Giants to draft 2 players from Ohio State is +390.
I wouldn't take that at all.
I don't think so either. Now, George Pickens just signed the franchise tag, and he wants the long-term contract. I saw some speculation earlier today that if Pickens were to sign the tag, like you were talking about the Kansas City Chiefs trading up, I saw some speculation that the Chiefs might be willing to trade with the Cowboys for that number 9 spot in exchange for Pickens, and then, something like swapping, the picks around there. Would you be, and then maybe the Cowboys also take the guy from Arizona State?
If the Cowboys trade George Pickens in this draft, I am turning it off and I'm not watching the season. The Micah Parsons trade completely falls through if George Pickens is traded. I don't like that he just signed the franchise tag in the hours before the NFL draft, because that makes him draft eligible. Why was there a push to get it done unless that they are fielding certain conversations about it? So that really makes me uneasy. But I mean, we saw how good the offense was last year. CD needs George. George needs CD. It's Batman to Robin. Schottenheimer loves both of them. They're best friends. They need each other. And so it would be incredibly stupid if Dallas melts down one side of the ball before the draft even starts.
I do like this from Antoine. Love, if he does end up in Arizona and Price to Seattle, you could see Love, Price, and Kyron Williams all in the same division playing each other twice a year, potentially, in the NFC West. Wouldn't that be something?
No, because I don't want him in Arizona, and neither does my money.
That's right. I don't know if he wants to be there either. Oh, boy. Now people are going to start picking on Dak Prescott. All right. We'll wrap it up with that. The draft is coming up. We will talk about how it goes on tomorrow's show. Of course, we've got South Bend Cubs baseball on the way. The Cubs are again in Dayton. Jesse, good stuff. I will see you this weekend. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com.